Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Cook That Book. Today I'm going to share a recipe with you. My name is Johnny DiFrancesco. I am the World Pizza Champion 2014. Today's recipe is actually not in my book or not in this book. So this recipe today is especially for you. I'm going to teach you how to make the world's best pizza. Okay, to make the world's best pizza, it's really essential that you do measure all your ingredients. So we don't just throw everything into a bowl and we just mix away when we're making pizza dough, right? So the first step is, let's measure our salt. Now this recipe is really simple. It's 1 kilo of flour, 30 grams of salt, 600 mils of water, and only 1 gram of yeast. So measuring off the salt. We have ourselves 30 grams of salt. Now we place that straight into the bowl. The first two ingredients that we start off with when we're making pizza dough is water and salt, okay? So really important is to start off with the water and the salt, and all we do is dissolve. Now you can use, a mixer if you like. I love making pizza dough by hand, especially with this quantity. It's quite simple. So if you don't have a mixer, really easy. Now at this stage, what we're gonna do, we have some yeast and we also have some flour, right? Now this is 00 flour, directly from Italy. As you can see, it's my flour. Well, it's actually not my flour, but I'm the ambassador of this flour company. And what we're going to do is, before we add the yeast into the bowl, is we're gonna add a little bit of flour. Now the reason why we do this is to separate the salt and the yeast, because if we put those two ingredients together, you will kill the yeast. So we're gonna add about 20% into the bowl, and we're gonna mix away, just making up like a crepe mix or like a pancake sort of texture. So once we've done this, what we're going to do is add the yeast directly into the bowl. So we don't need to dissolve the yeast in water or put it under a salamander out in the sun or anything like that, okay? We don't need to do any of that. Really simple. We're going to drop it straight into the mixture and it will dissolve on its own. So really easy. At this stage, what we're going to do is add a little bit more flour, and we're going to continue doing this until everything is combined. So we've got, as we call in Italian, punto di pasta. We want to get to the point of the dough. Okay, so as you can see, the dough has now combined. And what I'm going to do is turn it over onto the bench. This just makes the mixing process a little bit easier. So we're going to flour in front of the pizza dough. Don't ever throw flour on top, because what we want to do is mix into the flour rather than having the flour already on the dough. So I'm going to mix for a couple of minutes because the dough's nearly ready. This process shouldn't take you any longer than 15 or so minutes. So it's quite a quick process. The longest part is when you have to allow the dough to rest. But this part here, really good workout. You don't need to go to the gym after this, trust me, right? And, okay, perfect. So, once you have your dough combined, and as we said, punto di pasta, what we do is we press down into the center. If it pops up really fast, that means your dough is ready to put aside to rest. The other way you can test whether your dough is correctly is you can use a thermometer. So you just put a thermometer into your dough. If it's anywhere between 23 and 26 degrees, your dough is ready to put aside to rest. So what I'll do at this point is place it back into the bowl that I started off with, and I will cover this with a cloth. Okay, so I've allowed my dough to rise now for about 2 hours, and what we do then is we come back to it and we cut it into dough portions. Now, this recipe will probably get you around 8 to 10 pieces, just depending on the size that you make your dough balls, okay? So what we want to do is lightly flour the dough, very small amount, and we're going to cut them into pieces. Now, I'm going to cut them into pretty much probably like a small size pizza. But what I like also doing is I like leaving a little bit of extra dough aside, because I like making a bit of bread with the dough as well, because it's really good to make bread with, or my famous Nutella calzone, but that's a recipe for another day. Okay, so Making pizza dough balls, really simple. There are a couple of different ways, okay? So first one, you can roll it on the bench. This is a really a technique that is used quite frequently by bakers. Another technique is one that I've been using since I was a kid, and that is one hand guides, the other folds. As you can see, I'm folding the dough in, and then I place my hand like I have an ice cream cone in my hand, and I rub together. There's another dough piece. Another technique, and this is a really old technique, and that is bringing the dough up between your thumb and your finger, and we make a dough ball. Now, you've probably seen that done before with buffalo mozzarella, okay? So that's where that technique comes from. But for those of you that have never ever made a dough ball and find that those three techniques are probably a little bit too difficult, I'm going to teach you a really simple way that you can do right away at home, and that is we place the dough piece right in front of us, and we take the part that is closest to the body and we fold away. Right, really simple, folding right over so we cover the rest of the dough. We then pick up the folded part that faces the ceiling, part closest to the body again, we pick up and we fold away. Now we repeat this probably about 4 or 5 times. Just keep folding away and rolling on the bench like that. Then what we do is, once we have that shape with our thumb and our fingers, we press down, we lift up, tuck under, and just turn it over like you have a dumpling in your hand and just crimp the bottom, and we have a dough piece.